Good morning from Robbie. You can find me at www.soteriologicgarden.com, and quite appropriately I am just sitting on a toilet seat that you may have seen in one of my previous videos, where we were constructing the roof above it, and you can just see the roof ribs there in the background. Today's video is going to be on constructing a dry stone wall. Now, I've done this, and they don't necessarily have to be square, long, short, high, low. They can be any design you want. And basically the reasons behind constructing a dry stone wall in the past was to level the ground and to place the surplus stone somewhere else. Dry stone walls can be very artistic. They can be incredible structures that last centuries. We have some outstanding ones here on the edges of dry riverbeds, and which have stood the test of time and have stood the test of plant roots and movement of animals across them without falling apart, and even torrential rain. And that's a great thing about dry stone walls, is that they can allow water to pass through it without trying to hold them back. So consequently you don't get so many collapses of dry stone walls. But they do happen, and they will happen in an extreme environment where climate change is causing more and more flash flooding. But for this video then, I'm going to show you an ornate version of a dry stone wall in a triangular shape underneath the carob tree, which is directly in front of me. And I'm just going to chime it in with all the other angular structures which are surrounding it, including this compost toilet which I'm sitting on. Hi again. So you may note from some of my previous videos, when I do a job, I tend to do a whole number of jobs at the same time. So I'm filling in a wall which I've been building along Queen Elizabeth Row, and I'll show you that in a second. But this is my official entrance to my land, really. Where I was kept as far away as possible from the house, I've developed this area here. And there wasn't much to do, really. I planted up some cactus and repaired a few walls, planted a plum and a couple of cypress trees either side of the entry road. But I realised that I also would like to gain vehicle access into this part of the land as well. So couldn't do that with this old wall in front of me. But look at that for a bank of resources. As you can see, either side the wall is pretty much rubble. There's some very good stones in there if I want to rebuild it, and eventually I think I will on my side. And here's a neighbour's plot, just rubble, but you can never be short of a stone in Catalonia. So what you can see in front of you is a dry stone wall which I repaired about 2-3 years ago. Its general length will have extended along here. You can actually see the foundations of it, but up until this olive tree. Now, I don't want a dry stone wall and an olive tree, so when I repaired this particular one here, I cleared the ground basically, and that was a common sense thing to do. And as you can see, the newly repaired dry stone wall hasn't been weathered, so all the stone is quite clean. So it's underneath one of my biggest carob trees on the land, and what I want to do here is just basically create a small triangular extension around the trunk, and to design it in the same vein as the triangular base for this dry compost toilet, which is quite well hidden now. And in exactly the same manner as I extended the dry stone wall here into a triangular shape. As you can see, we have a combination of carob, almond and olive all closely growing together. But this is great because I can crawl underneath those trees now and pick my crop. So that's the idea, and I'm well on top of my work at the moment. You can see these bags of carobs ready to go in and to be sold. And I will continue. Right, so I tend to do everything by eye. So what I'm going to do is drop off a load of rock and then go back and pick up some rope and just outline the base of this triangular section of dry stone wall, which is going to extend out from here. There's some big rocks in here already, and some which I can salvage from behind the tree where the original line existed. It's always a problem getting big rocks on the land, but once you've got them, you should put them to one side for repairs. So let's do that. Right, so you may have heard that clanky old wheelbarrow go past. That's better. And it's got dodgy wheel on it. That's because we keep repairing them. My man accuses me of using them like 2-ton trucks, and I've suffered a hernia in the past, so I've actually designed some yoga exercises in the morning from my bed, which is about 10 minutes. And it's worked wonders. Everywhere I go, apart from when I'm on a bicycle and living in a hammock, obviously, but when I'm staying at other people's houses, going backwards and forwards between England and Spain, I do my stretching exercises in the morning, and it's made a fantastic difference to the base of my back. So being bodily conscious is very important, especially when you're using big stones, and Catalonian landscapes have no shortage of huge stones. Some essential equipment. A mattock. You really can't beat a mattock. For me, it's one of those tools that, especially for building dry stone walls, but for making easy work of digging troughs, pits, holes, whatever you want to call them. And this is a typical rock that you'll find. Now, in permaculture, we say least effort for the greatest effect. And it's taken me about 3 minutes to get these stones. from another dry stone wall, which you may have seen in the previous video, which was being deconstructed. So it's providing me with some very large stones, which I'm going to use to form the outside edge of this extension here. So have a look at this stone. Have a good look at it. It's called conglomerate rock. It has almost like a concrete texture to it. It's created on the Mediterranean seabed millions of years ago, and it almost looks like mixed aggregate, all bound together. It's not particularly strong rock, but for dry stone walls it's absolutely perfect. Well, that's what we've got here, so that's what everyone have been using. Some of it is really tough and some of it's really soft, and you'll find that out when you're digging or excavating to build cisterns or foundations for something else. And typically the rock comes in this form as well, which is very ideal to be used either in an upright position like that or in a horizontal position like that. And I've created seats around the farm where you can just sit down, maybe to think over the dead animals which I have at the cemetery at that corner of the land, or maybe to find a little cool spot somewhere where you can just relax for an hour or two. And so building small seats into your structures or steps and that type of thing, you should think about that all the time. As you get older, you'll appreciate it. So I'm going to put a rope down, and then I'm going to use my mattock to line the trench for the first row of rocks.
There is a vine, its name's inscribed in ancient book, a face and she's of stone, a shaman with a common look. Passages run a fervent line to hit all men. Yeah, every time I read the sign.
Well, look at that. I think I got it first time. I don't want to go out too far because I need to be able to run a wheelbarrow or a small quad or something on the other side of the dry stone wall. And I've got plans to actually make a little sheep run here, because in the future I want to be a pastor and I want to keep some sheep, and the fence to the pen is just there as well behind me. So eventually I'm going to put a gate in or a doorway for the sheep to be able to run in between the fence and the dry stone wall which is already existing, and that way I can direct them into the doorway, you see. So don't want to make it too big as well, because it's a massive amount of work and rubble you've got to fill in. And the only reason why I've gone 3 minutes up there to the other dry stone wall to collect material is because I'm effectively building two. I'm deconstructing one and repairing it and building this one. But generally in permaculture, you really, it's like your organic waste. If you're creating compost heaps and that type of thing, it's got to be near a garden where you don't have to travel half a kilometre to actually get your organic waste over to your vegetable patch. So on that principle, you don't want to be travelling half the length of the farm to get your rock from one place to another if you can source it from somewhere else. And I mean, we're absolutely sitting on billions of tons of rock here. So it's just a case of thinking, well, rather than do one project, let's do two projects, and that way we make less effort for more work. There are some other walls over there that need repairing, but I want to keep stone, loose stone, for those reparations in over there, rather than having to look for those stones at a future date. So let's get on with this. I've lined up this extension with the one which is further up there, and you'll see a better picture of that in a future shot. But it will look quite ornate, I think, by the time I'm finished. All right. So there's the wheelbarrow. Here's my mattock. Okay, so just one final point. I'm a bit superhuman. I cycle around the world on a bicycle. I live in extreme conditions. I can do it in a hammock, so I don't necessarily need a great bed to straighten myself out. But as people get older, they tend to get a bit more cranky, get up later in the morning, and then you've missed the best part of the day. So there are tools around, and some of it's called employed labour. But otherwise, getting yourself a decent wheelbarrow can make a really big difference. And the thing to remember is to put the weight in the front, because it's pivoted so that it takes most of the weight on the front wheel. That's a big mistake that a lot of people actually make. They put too much weight in the back, so their arms are carrying excessive amounts of stress. So with my mattock in hand, I'm going to now dig a trench following the line of the rope. Well, that's a start. You're going to be digging up roots and other stones. You don't have to go down too deep. Well, you may have noticed, so I use both my arms, I'm two-handed, and that is because your body posture changes if you're either left-handed or you're right-handed. It's a very good trick if you want to be an artist, to swap around, try things from different angles, and trying to engage unconscious parts of your body which are not used. Anyway, one of the things we have here is this. This is wild asparagus. Now, this is not a particularly good one to show you, but it's just coming up again after all the rains. It lives in the ground through the drought. People go around picking asparagus tips, which are very tasty. And it's just like a snack as you go around. I can see it all over the place here. But sometimes you get finger thick asparagus tips which are worth collecting and making into a meal later on. So for this dry stone wall, I've dug deep enough really, and I'm going to place the first cornerstone, well, the first stone into that corner over there, and then work back towards the existing walls here. As you can see, most of this is going to be buried. That's why you dig the first trench line, and you don't have to put great stones down, and in fact you want to put your worst stones down there because it's all going to be backfilled and evened out eventually. You get really fast at it, and there's a sort of pleasure at the end when you're putting your final stones in, maybe like completing a puzzle or something like that. I'm going to have to get myself some more stones, I think. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of backfill on this one. Okay, so I was just double checking my lines. One of the things I wanted to say is that I'm doing this in a right angled triangle, so it's quite an easy structure to follow. That should give me two equal length sides. Now, the thing I do want to mention is that whether you can actually see it on this video or not, this is the new line that's going up to the corner, yeah, which you see me dig. Well, all along here is the existing dry stone wall going up to the base of the trunk, and there are some wonderful stones in there, so I'm going to use those stones to create the final finish on this new line, because they'll be wasted there. You see, they've been faced, some of these stones, so they'll be wasted there, and I want their face up on the new line which I'm building. So I'm going to deconstruct to a large extent this section of the existing wall, and then I will find a multitude of very good stones. And there's a beauty, you see? Look at that. So that's what I'm saying. It's not for the frail or the weak. When you're doing this type of work, expect to put on some muscle and grow a few more hairs on your chest. And be aware of your postures. So I'm not going to pick this up like this because this is a very bad posture. But what I'm going to do is just roll it out the way. Shouldn't be afraid to destroy something and rebuild it. The whole learning experience is worth it. I'm never one for the final product really, I'm always one for the means. I think that's where true creativity lies, in your methods and your learning, not in your observations. So this is just unearthed a load of other rocks which I can use to finish off the foundation. Right, not to get too fussy, I'm gonna now take a drinks break. As you can see, after about an hour and a quarter maybe, with a little bit of endeavour, things start to come together. Now I'm a long way from finishing, and there's a lot of gaps that need to be filled, and that doesn't just add to the aesthetic value but also to the structural value of the wall, and we call them springers in a way. Now these stones are so irregular that you can't necessarily use the same methods as you would say if you were building with slate or granite or something like that. So what's important though is that there is strength in irregularity, and that potential weak lines are counteracted by big stones, or braced by big stones, whether they are on the top flat or upright. So to give you an example, I could well, I'm looking for a bad example. Here could be a bad example, but it's actually quite a good attempt. Here, for instance, there's a potential weak point there and the stone can fall out. Well, I will lodge something inside this hole, and that will form a very nice bridge between the two. I may have to adjust this stone to be able to get underneath there, but so long as I've got a bridge there, it means I'm actually extending one wall into another without a weak point inside. Okay, so this is going to take me a few days to complete, and it may not look much at the moment, but the aesthetic value comes when you top it all up and the levels are correct, and that's probably quite important. A lot of people use string lines to get their levels right, but I build just using my eye, and I think it's a very good method to get used to also. As you can see, I've progressed and I'm still skimming, filling in the gaps with smaller stones from the back and from the front, and I'm also backfilling. But there shouldn't be a rush to backfill, because you'll probably have to repair quite a number of walls on your farm, and it's there's always going to be excess, and then there's settling as well where you've done repairs on other walls and they will need to be topped up as well. So no rush to backfill. Don't destroy something just so you can get yourself a load of extra rubble, and you don't have to buy anything. There's that much land and stone that you should be able to repair most of your walls. That's if you do have a farm, but this would be just a nice little aesthetic finish to this area.